When you're standing in a bright conference room and trying to decide if that 55-inch screen you just saw online is really worth the price tag, you start wondering if you'll end up with a blank wall of glare or a picture that actually helps people see the data you're presenting. I've been in that exact spot more than once talking with a small business owner who wanted a reliable display for daily client demos, and later with a school administrator trying to choose a screen that could survive back-to-back classes without fading. The hesitation is real because the money you spend on a commercial-grade monitor sticks with you for years, and if you pick the wrong one, you'll be stuck with a dim, underperforming piece of hardware that looks good on paper but fails in the real world. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down the Samsung 55-inch commercial 4K UHD LED LCD display and see who should actually be putting this on the wall and who would be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the most obvious thing that separates this model from a typical home TV is the 500 nit brightness rating. In a dimly lit office, 250 to 300 nits is plenty, but in a retail window or a training room with daylight streaming in, you need that extra punch to keep the image visible. Think about a coffee shop that wants to showcase a menu board all day long, or a hospital waiting area where you're displaying health information on a wall that never gets dark. The higher brightness means the colors stay vivid and the text stays legible, even when the sun is at its peak. For those kinds of environments, the extra lumens are not just a nice-to-have, they're essentially a requirement. The 4K UHD resolution also matters more than many people think. It's easy to assume that a 55-inch screen is big enough for a single 1080p source, but when you're dealing with detailed charts, high-resolution product images, or multiple windows in a video conference, the extra pixel density makes a noticeable difference. I've watched a marketing team run a side-by-side comparison of a 1080p slide deck on a regular monitor versus the Samsung on a 4K panel, and the text stayed razor-sharp without the need to zoom in. That can cut down on eye strain for anyone who's reading spreadsheets for an hour straight. Now, who should actually buy this? If you're a small to medium business that needs a dependable display for customer presentations, a digital signage solution, or a classroom that runs back-to-back lessons, this Samsung hits the sweet spot. The commercial label usually means the panel is built to run for longer hours per day than a consumer TV. Think 8 to 12 hours of continuous use without the kind of image retention you'd worry about on a regular screen. That durability translates to less downtime and fewer replacement cycles, which is a big part of the value proposition if you're budgeting for an office environment. Retail environments also benefit because the brightness can combat ambient light from storefront windows. Imagine a boutique that wants to showcase a looping video of new arrivals. The 500 nit panel keeps those colors true, even when a passerby blocks part of the window with a shopping bag. In that scenario, you're essentially buying a piece of advertising hardware that will stay legible all day, every day. On the other hand, if you're a home user who just wants a big TV for binge-watching Netflix on a dark couch, this might be overkill. First, the price point for a commercial-grade 55-inch display tends to sit above most consumer 4K TVs of the same size, simply because you're paying for that extra brightness and the longer life cycle. Second, commercial panels usually skip the built-in smart TV platform, which means you'll need an external streaming stick or a PC to get apps like Netflix, Hulu, or Disney+. If you're not planning to set up a separate device anyway, you might end up with a perfectly good screen but an extra piece of hardware you didn't anticipate. A practical weakness to flag is the lack of typical consumer TV features. While a family TV might have a built-in tuner for over-the-air channels, this Samsung is focused on HDMI and DisplayPort inputs aimed at computers, media players, or signage controllers. If you were hoping to hook it up directly to a cable box and flip through live TV, you'll have to add a separate receiver. That's not a deal-breaker for most business use cases, but it's something that can surprise a first-time buyer. Another point that comes up when people start measuring value is the trade-off between brightness and power consumption. Higher nits generally mean a bit more wattage, especially when you're running the screen at full brightness for long periods. For a storefront that leaves the display on for 12 hours a day, the electricity bill will be a little higher than a standard home TV. It's not a massive spike, but it's worth noting if you're counting operational costs closely. One of the things I appreciated when digging through